see, am I in? Okay, I'm in. Lars, I need your voice.
You have my voice.
Yep, you are in very loud and clear. Okay. All right.
Fantastic.
Here we go. Writer's Review, the 2023 Winter Anime. Let's. We just tried to live stream this, didn't work, so we're just going to record it, throw everything together, and then throw it up on YouTube real quick. And treat it like a live stream, even though it kind of interrupts all of the interactivity. So, we're just
Yeah,
gonna.
I mean, if we post this as like a premiere, you then have a chat option, but then we'd have to like be there for the chat and everything,
Oh,
which is not as much fun,
yeah,
I
that makes
think,
sense.
as doing it all in person. So
Yeah, well, and like I said, we just keep having technical issues. We need to just like do some more research, figuring out like what we want to do. Any viewers listening to this right now, if you have any ideas on like programs we should use to try to live stream, we are more than willing to hear what you would suggest. I've been trying to use OBS, but it hasn't been working the last couple times we've tried this.
mhm.
So,
Yeah,
shall we?
things have just been falling apart.
Right.
When things fall apart, you find another way to do it.
Yep, exactly. So just a quick rundown of what we're doing here. So it's basically our pre-anime manga review. We go through a bunch of the animes coming out for the next season and read a bit of the manga if there's a manga available for a few of them. And then we kind of review them, kind of look at it through like a writer's mindset, look at what we're interested in, what we're looking like, what interests us and what we'll possibly be watching in the upcoming season. So
Hmm.
let's
Yep.
shall we start with the returning
Oh,
anime?
yeah. Let's start off with that returning anime. That sweet, sweet returning anime.
Well, there's a couple of them that are pretty popular. Some I know that you're very excited about, Lars. Let's start with Vinland Saga.
Ooh, Vinland Saga. You know what? I still need. Here's the crazy thing. I need to still finish the anime, the first season
Okay.
of Vinland Saga. However, I was so taken by what I had seen that I just kind of like jumped ship on the anime and went ahead with the manga.
As you do, as
So
you do.
as you do, when I mean that's when the anime's actually doing its job right. And you know what, Vinland Saga is it's a punishing story and in a good way. Because it really takes you through so much. If you are not feeling exhausted after having read this, I question if you actually paid attention to reading it. Because there's so much going on for the characters, for the world, and it really is just an absolute wild ride.
Which
So
that's
I need to catch up with the anime and then just dive on into this newest season of Vinland Saga because I need to get back on that ride.
right. Which I think that's a really cool little like writing trick, is making something that exhausting. I remember listening to an interview talking about, I think it was the second Born movie, The Born Supremacy, and
Mhm.
they had this car chase in the middle of it that just kept going and going and going
Oh
to
my
the point where it's
gosh,
exhausting.
yes.
And it was like on purpose. They wanted it to exhaust you. They wanted it to like really kind of mess with your emotions, tire you out as you're watching the movie. And it's a brilliant bit of writing. And so like if you can do that in a manga or like in an anime even, um I think it's like a neat piece of work when you do that. But like it's also like the emotions and everything involved with like the emotions of the characters and all that that are involved with like the creation of it. And I think Vinland Saga is a really good example of that. Like you were saying.
Mhm. Yeah, and I will also say this for Vinland Saga as a historian. Yes, this is absolutely historical fiction, but I really do appreciate all of the effort that goes into incorporating real world characters, real world events, real world issues from that time period and putting it into the story and in a way that doesn't detract from just the overall enjoyment of the plot.
Right.
That's really, really well done, and that's something that not a lot of historical uh, fiction stories are able to pull off because either they try to be too adhering to the actual events, which I'm totally a fan of, but because they put it in fictional characters and fictional events, it then the fictional stuff feels bumpy and out of place, or it's so completely off the rails doing its own thing, it might as well have been its own story, like watching Gladiator, which is really great, but it's in no way historically accurate.
Right. That's kind of why I stick with more fantasy, like alternate worlds and all that kind of stuff, because you can just make up all your own stuff. I mean, it's a bit of a cop out in some cases, but like it's also can be super fun.
Yeah.
Let's move on to one I know you really like, Lars.
Yes.
Nagatoro.
Oh, I'm so excited for season two. The one caveat to that is that it is with a new studio. Quality doesn't look to be quite there
Oh
as it was
no.
with season one. We're going to see. This could be a One Punch Man season two type scenario, or it could actually still be really good. I'll just say this: the joy of the Nagatoro story is in the story itself, and so long as they
Okay.
continue to adhere to the events within the manga, it will actually do really, really well. The thing is that season one was a gem because they went far and beyond what I was expecting. Like even the opening shot for season one is not from the manga, but it's a brilliant tone setting and setting shot where you're just like, oh, here we are at this little town. It's nice and quiet. Here we have Senpai. We're going off to school. You feel both that anticipation and that dread of what's to come. And boom, here we got the girls. And it was really well done. You don't get that in the manga. And that was just a little extra something that the anime did that really brought an extra depth of life to the story. I don't know how this season is going to do. I hope that they continue in that same vein because that will just help to enhance the charm. So long as they get the story right, the story in of itself is amazing. So,
Well, that'll be
watching it.
fun. Let's see. Another one that I personally know a lot of people excited about is Tokyo Revengers. Just because when I worked at Barnes and Noble, all sorts of people were looking for that manga just because the anime was coming out when the first season came out. And now we're having uh, the next season of that come out. Though it's not one that I know much about personally. I didn't really get much into it.
Yeah, same here. I wanted to get into Tokyo Revengers. I tried to read further along in the manga, and it just kind of lost me. So I don't know if I will watch this one because I need to go back and watch season one, which I haven't done.
Yeah.
So I may do it, but chances are no. Especially with the other anime that I want to watch. Some of the anime I still need to catch up on, as well as all the writing I'm freaking doing.
Yep. Let's see. Another one I
What?
know.
Let's write down Tokyo Revengers.
Okay. Another one I know is pretty popular. Bungo Stray Dogs. It's one I got into for a little while there, but then stopped. And it's one I really want to go back into and like binge a whole ton. And like, I'm glad there's more content because when I watched it, I think it was only just the one season out. And now I think this is like the third or fourth season in this anime. And it's got a lot of like really fun, like supernatural bits, which I really like getting into that. So I'm looking forward to that one at the very least.
Yeah, I want to check it out, but I'll need to definitely do some catching up because if I just jump into this season, then I will
Right.
have no idea what on.
Right. I'm really excited about the next one. They're bringing back Bofuri,
Yeah.
and like,
I
it's
Oh my gosh.
it's so much fun. Like the first season was so much fun. It's so like slice of life and goofy, and like they're just having fun, and it's a fun watch. And I'm hoping they continue that into the second season, no matter what happens story wise or another. Like, and I don't even watch it for the story necessarily. It's like as long as they keep that fun, like easygoing nature to it, I'm all in for it.
Mm-hmm. I'm really looking forward to this one as well. This was just the first season was just nice to watch. There's
Yeah,
you don't always need everything to be like a gourmet meal of amazingness. Sometimes
exactly.
it's nice to kick back and enjoy some junk food, some very tasty junk food, and Bofuri is just it's heartwarming, delicious junk food for the soul.
Right. It and like Bofuri, like storytelling wise, it fits into this genre in like specifically they've got it more in Japan than like I see it here in the West. It's called Iyashike, which is kind of translates to healing house. But it's very like
Oh.
easygoing and like light natured kind of stories that they're just they're just fun. They're like healing in that nature. You don't have to worry about them being super dramatic. You don't have to worry about anybody dying or anything like that. And it's nice to have a break, especially you get done reading or watching something that's super heavy. Having something like Bofuri or like something else of that nature to go to kind of like to relax, to like come down off of that really heavy level you were on for so long. And that's part of why I really like
Mhm.
Bofuri.
Yeah, it's so much fun, and just the characters are great for it too. I love
Right?
Maple.
I love
Maple
Maple.
is and normally I'm not for a dense protagonist who just skips their way through everything, but there's just something so charming about Maple that I don't care,
Well,
and she's so funny.
yeah. And like that entire show, it's basically this big old bokeh tsukome act where like Maple, no matter what she does, like she's the dumb one, but always ends up like using that dumb luck to accomplish whatever she wants, and everybody else is just like being that straight man trying to figure out like what the hell just happened, what's going on here, like. And it's hilarious. Like I love that kind of comedy, and just having that light nature to it like really helps it along as well.
hmm and I'm going to say this: we seriously still need to do a matchup of Bofuri versus Kuma Kuma Bear. Like,
Yeah.
what would actually happen in a like death battle type scenario between the two leads? Because just these sweet, overpowered girls. What happens if you bring them together?
Right. Oh, I think that would be hilarious. I love it. I love it. Okay. And then the last one, which the first anime was disappointing. Like the first season was
Inspector.
super yeah, Inspector, or Kyoko Suidi, I think was the Japanese name for it. I
Mm-hmm.
I love the original concept for this anime. Like it promised a lot when you got into it, but then the anime itself made made a mistake.
Slow.
Yeah, it's very slow, and it's something you don't see a lot in a lot of anime. A lot of anime try to be like very quick pace, trying to get through the material, and this one just took forever. Like they spent episode after episode after episode like focusing on like little tiny bits and then talking that bit to death. And I think it was a mistake. And I felt like it was one of the same mistakes that like um the Melancholy of Haruhi Suzumiya did back in the day, where like you had that second season of Haruhi Suzumiya and had 8 episodes that were basically the same thing, just with little changes. And I felt like
Oh.
Inspector did almost the exact same thing. It just took so long to get through that one mystery. And like I could feel like they were trying to set up some stuff for the future, but like it's been what, 3-4 years since that first season, and it's almost doing what like the Avatar movie did with its like 13-year gap. You know what I mean? Where like
Yeah.
it would have worked better if they came out with the next season, like even just like within the next year or something. I felt like that would have saved it a bit, but since it's been so long since the first season came out, like people are gonna have to go back and watch through that terrible first season to get what's going on in the second season.
And they
So I'm
might, yeah, and they
afraid.
might not even make it through the
Yeah,
first season.
yeah,
I know I
and
didn't. I enjoyed the story, and then it just went on. And because we had read the manga, or at least read a good chunk of the manga
yeah,
before watching the first season, I was remembering like, oh my gosh, we're going to get to so much good stuff. I'm like, why are we still stuck on the freaking second mystery? Get it
right.
over with.
Yep, exactly. So I'm worried how well the second season of this will do. I, like I said, I might watch it just because I like the concept, and I hope they like realize where they messed up in the first season. But I'm not holding out too much hope for it, if that means anything.
Yeah, I think I'm going to skip on. I think I'm going to skip out on this one because my faith in it isn't very high.
Right,
There's just so much
exactly.
other stuff.
Exactly.
So
Uh
speaking of the other stuff, that finally takes us to the new anime
New
that's coming
anime.
out.
So I picked
Woo!
out quite a few. There's quite a few other anime that are coming out this season, a lot of which don't have like manga for them. And there's a lot of great anime it looks like coming out. So like keep an eye on those. Possibly those will get like returning seasons, and like those will end up being more popular than what we've got here. I feel like the new stuff this season, it's very like it's a lot of fun. There's some like chaos involved. There's a lot of humor. But like you were saying before, Lars, there's a good chance a lot of this will just be forgotten by the time we even reach summer of this year.
Which is honestly a real shame
Yeah,
because especially for like the returning anime, this is stuff that definitely deserves its time in the limelight. But there's also a couple of the ones that are being pitched right here that I feel like are ones that will actually resonate really well with people
yeah,
during this season, and because it will then just get lost down the memory hole. What are the chances that they then might get a well-deserved second season? Who
right.
knows? Like that's the sad thing is because like all of this looks really good, but there aren't many that look like dazzling wonders. It's the returning anime like Vinland Saga, Nagatoro, Tokyo Revengers that looks like that will have the staying power to
Yeah,
then come back again for a third season and just dominate. The
right,
rest of this stuff, I don't know.
right.
So
Well, and I felt like some of the other anime that like original anime, it's not based off of manga or anything that I saw in the list when I was like coming up with what we were going to review. I felt like there's going to be some of those that are going to be fairly popular as well. So I I think we've got a good chance to progress. But like we just came off a pretty big season as is. I mean,
yeah. Oh my
you
gosh.
had like freaking Chainsaw Man, and like the manga for that one was huge before the anime even came out. So
Mhm.
there's a really good
And
chance
it
this is
and
gonna
it
kind of fall in the
beat
wayside.
One Piece.
Yeah,
Beat One Piece not in manga sales when I checked, but in anime views. It
right.
like One Piece dominates almost always. It's almost impossible for another anime to top One Piece. Chainsaw Man every week came and socked One Piece down to second or third place.
Right.
Like that is power right there. So we're coming down from that
Yeah. Yeah.
into the
Which
winter.
like you really shouldn't compare pieces of fiction like too heavily. At least like as a writer you shouldn't, cuz like you shouldn't compare your own work with like other people's works. You should just like keep it to its own thing, but like it's not going to stop people from doing it like
Yeah,
outside of that. But I still think
just
there's going to be
incredible.
some fun ones this season to watch.
And one that I'm almost positive is going to be forced through to stay to at least a second season is the first one we have here on our list. Tomo-Chan is a girl. This This right here, oh, the note I have for it right here. I am happy with how this manga ends. I honestly am. It's the ending that works for this particular story, and it made me happy. I despise how long it took for us to get there. This anime is going to drive me up the wall with all of its teasing, and I hate that. In all honesty, this is a story that could easily be done in like a season or two. But I can already tell because of the production value that's been put into this anime from all the stuff that Crunchyroll's been dropping, they are intending Studio Ledoux is intending to make this a 3 to 5 season anime. Easy.
Ooh,
That's what they want this one to go that way.
right.
Unless they pull the rug out from under us and jump to the ending at the end of the season, we are in for a long haul here, and I'm not sure if Tomo-Chan is a story is worthy of it because it's basically tomboy girl wants to have her childhood friend notice her, and then become a couple. This is making fun of a classic trope about how the childhood friend never wins and that the
Hmm.
tomboy never wins. So it's bringing two things together into one. I like that there's a story that's willing to tackle those tropes in a hilarious way. So
Right.
I definitely appreciate that, but I hate how long it takes. Ugh.
Yeah, it is kind of obnoxiously long, even though it's basically a 4 coma manga. Like it it handles itself pretty well. It knows what it is. I think it'll be fun to watch, but it also might be more fun to watch. Like, I end up finding myself watching some anime more as like little bits and pieces, little clips on YouTube or on TikTok, something like that. And so it's
Mhm.
more fun to watch like individual scenes here and there than to actually sit down and watch the entire anime from like start to finish, if that makes sense. And I feel like
Yeah.
this might fit more into that kind of setting, if anything.
I agree with you there.
Yeah. Uh,
Um, the next one that we have, The Angel Next Door, spoils me rotten.
I wasn't
Uh,
sure what I was getting into when I first started reading this one.
yeah, and I'm gonna say this up front right here. This feels a lot like the situation with Vermilion Gold, where a studio's taking a massive risk adapting a manga that isn't even halfway through yet.
Oh,
And
yeah.
especially with the Angel Next Door, we're just getting started
Yeah.
with the story. And so this anime will outstrip the manga before the season ends.
Right.
Points. And so that could be very good, it could be very bad.
Right.
Uh, for me, I found myself rolling my eyes a lot at first when I read like the first like 2 3 chapters, but by the fifth chapter, and I think I even read a little bit beyond that, I was like, you know what, I'm actually okay with this right here because I do like dynamic between the two main leads. It's
Hmm.
not just a bunch of flustered teenagers blushing of like, oh, I touched a hand,
See,
oh, so
that's what I was worried about when I first went into this. Like, oh, it's gonna be a lot of like really awkward reactions and all that kind of stuff. And I'm like, I don't think I could sit through a whole anime of that like
oh.
anymore. That would suck. But like this actually surprised me because like the characters, they're actually very like they're very upfront and fairly mature for their age, if that makes sense.
Yeah, they really are. And that was one of the things I really liked. There's some great dialogue between the
Hmm.
two leads
Yeah.
that I was not expecting. And it's a very like I'm just so used to in manga and anime where characters only hint at their intentions and their feelings. This one, there's none of that. It's very similar to Bunny Girl Senpai, where it's just like, nah, we're just gonna say it like it is. Uh, and I like that.
Yeah.
So I think the Angel Next Door is going to be very popular. I
Hmm.
just don't know how it's going to end
Right.
this season. So
Right.
we'll just have to watch it.
Yeah. Let's move on to Spy Classroom, and I have a theory with this one.
Okay, let's hear your theory.
I am convinced because I keep seeing a lot, like, since Spy Family came out, that Spy Family has started something much like back in like 2011, 2012 when Sword Art Online came out and kind of started the whole like isekai genre. Almost like you have that explosion of like isekai come up after that.
The video game isekai
Yeah,
genre.
exactly. Um, I felt like Spy Family has started its own thing, so we're gonna get a lot more, like a whole lot more, like spy action thriller, with a bit of like wholesomeness thrown in, kind of
Mhm.
idea, and like with the isekai stuff, there were isekai before that, but like ever since SAO, there's been so many isekai, like anime and manga coming out, like it's absolutely ridiculous. We've got a few more isekai we're going to be talking about later, but like I think Spy Family has started something, and this is one of the results of that. Spy Classroom is very much like spy action, spy thriller, almost thrown in with like an idol drama. Like you've got like basically the girl
Yeah.
group aspect where they're all good at different things, but they're spies now kind of idea. They're not singing or anything like that, but it's got that same kind of like atmosphere to it.
hmm I here's the thing. I really like the concept. The concept is you have this master spy who is supposed to train the new generation of spies, and the thing is this is that he's a horrible teacher.
Yeah.
And so he's trying to figure out how to teach these girls, and so he gives them these ridiculous challenges as well as going on missions to try to just basically teach them by doing and help, and then between missions and between exercises he then focuses on a particular girl and helps her to realize what her specific set of skills are in order to be a great spy. And the idea is that together, like, no one can replicate him because he's the master spy, but together they can be the perfect spy. I like that idea,
Mm-hmm.
but after reading the manga, I'm not sure how good the execution
Yeah.
of that idea is.
Yeah. That makes sense. I think this one could be fun. Um but I it doesn't seem like one I'd really be interested in putting that much effort into watching, if that makes sense. Like if I hear
Yeah.
some really good stuff about it later, I might go back to it. But like from the first place, I'm probably not going to sit down and actually watch it week by week, if anything.
Well, here's actually something I want to throw on out there, and this might be a little bit of a tangent, but I think that this is important to bring up for where Spy Classroom might end up being relegated to what you said, Scott, like how Spy Family has kicked off something. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, where it's going to take a little while for us to really see the effects of it, but I think you're onto something here when you say that Spy Family has probably kicked off the next big genre that a lot of mangaka and anime studios are going to try to replicate because it's so dang good.
Yeah.
And already we've actually seen this happen before back in the 1950s and 1960s when spy thrillers were absolutely the craze. And so for about a decade you have everyone trying to come up with a new spy show or a new spy movie. So many of them have been lost to time
Mm-hmm.
because they basically just tried to replicate what others did. Reason why stories like The Man from Uncle survive for so long is because the charisma of the actors really elevated a very basic plot, which is this is poor man James Bond, but with a twist. Because we are bringing in spies from both sides to work together, and that's a cool idea. And in fact, there's plenty of other stories that tried to have rival spies working together, but Man from Uncle just works so well because all of the different components just came together just right.
Right.
Spy Family works because so many of the components come together just right. I don't see those components coming together for Spy Classroom.
Right. There is another like spy-based anime coming out. It's one of the original ones. It's like kind of like spy well, it's not spy family exactly, but it's got like two brothers or whatnot and a kid
Oh,
involved with the
oh,
spy action. I can't remember
yeah,
the
the
name
two
of it.
dads, the spy
Yeah,
dads.
yeah, the Spy Dads, that one. That's
Yeah.
another
Oh, that
one
looks
that's
good.
coming out. But I've also seen like within the past week, 3, 4, possibly 5 different manga that have come out recently that are all like spy action and stuff like that. And I'm looking forward to see like which one of those ends up getting some popularity. I know one called Sakamoto Days. I think that one could be a lot of fun. Definitely more like shonen action and that kind of stuff and humor, but that one's a fun one.
I think Sakamoto Days has already been picked up for an anime adaptation.
Oh,
I
really?
think in I'd have to double check that, but I think 20 either late 2024 or early 2025 is
Nice.
when they're expecting to release Sakamoto Days.
Okay. And I think we ought to do like a separate video just on this kind of topic, how like you get
Oh,
something that
absolutely.
starts a genre and it just sticks around for a whole decade kind of thing. I think that could be pretty fun. But let's move on to our next topic, which is
Yeah.
Kubo-San Won't Let Me Be. How do you like it?
Uh okay, here is my note on this right here. Kubo-san Won't Let Me Be is the lame sauce version of Boku no Kokoro no Yabai Yatsu, which is also getting an anime adaptation, which I'm really looking forward
I'm
to.
excited about that one.
That I have been so enjoying reading that manga. I have had so much fun, and the moment that I saw that Kubo-san Won't Let Me Be was in the same vein, I began to get a little bit excited, and then I was abysmally disappointed.
Yeah.
The MC has no charisma or personality whatsoever, which is what Boku no Kokoro actually has.
Yeah.
Just fantastic. I love having an MC who is unabashedly himself. This character is a wet blanket, a wet noodle. The only thing that's interesting about him is that no one pays attention to him. And I'm sorry, but here's the thing is that back in high school, I could do the exact same thing as him, but I know I had more personality. In fact, being able to blend into a crowd is actually more of a skill than an accident, and I
Yeah.
can speak from experience doing that. So that was not grabbing. And Kubo-san, she's not an engaging female protagonist.
Yeah.
She's not an engaging female lead. She annoyed the snot out of me.
Yep. Exactly. I think that was the part of it. It was trying to like lean into that whole like teasing master Takagi-san or like even Nagatoro for that matter or Uzaki-chan, but like it failed.
Yes, absolutely. And that comes down to a matter of chemistry, and writing chemistry is hard.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely is. I mean, for I'm right now um editing two books within the Legend of the Ten Lords series. There's a relationship that I've really enjoyed exploring, but one of the hardest things for me has been figuring out how to make it so that these characters have any sort of chemistry. There's a part of me that that's like, you know what? I'm happy if anyone picks up on the fact that there might be a little bit of lack of chemistry between these two characters because that kind of lends itself to the volatile nature of their relationship, but that's more accidental than intended. Writing good chemistry between characters is hard.
Yep. All right, let's move on to the next one. I love this next one. It's called Endo and Kobayashi Live, and we've talked before about like the whole otome isekai subgenre, where it's isekai, but it's done through like a shoujo mindset, and so you get somebody that gets isekai'd into kind of like more political royalty kind of situation, has to deal with like the situation, but it has a lot to do with like the villainous and like how like they handle the situation from there. But this takes that formula that's been made for a lot of like the Tome Isekai stories and like completely changes a lot of things, and I think it's a lot of fun because of it. because you've
Hmm.
basically got this story where you've got these two people, this one guy who's never played this video game before, and then the girl who's absolutely in love with the video game. And she's basically forcing her friend to play this girl's video game, like this dating sim almost. And he's not so sure about doing it, but then when he does, he starts getting into it. But then something strange happens. They find out, wait, it's doing things like it hasn't done before. Are we looking at like real life through the lens of this video game? And we're able to like influence the reactions, and like that's actually what's happening. So, like on the other side of the line in the like fantasy world, everybody's like, "Oh, the gods are talking to us," and it's just these two high school kids, and like it's hilarious and fun.
It's so funny.
And like there's so many like fun little things, and they're only talking to the one prince, and they're like, you got to check out this tsundere girl, she actually really loves you, you just got to give her like the right kind of attention. And it ends up so much fun.
Oh my gosh. And I love how he gets like all the names wrong
Yeah.
too. because like it's great because you have this character in another world who, as like, it's not like, yes, it's made by Japanese developers, but the whole thing is like it's their whole, we're obsessed with Europe, so we're going to make everything European. And so these European characters are hearing Japanese and they're like, what the heck?
Yeah.
That's where I lost it. I lost it when I read that, and I was like, okay, you already got me now.
Like the prince is like, can I ask the gods just one question? And they're like, yeah, we can answer one question. And he's like, I should probably ask something like super important for like the disaster that's coming up or something. And then instead he's like, what's a tsundere? and they're like, and they're like, well, wasn't expecting that question, but here we go.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. I'm already going to say this one right here, Endo and Kobayashi live, is a must watch.
Yeah.
If it's anything like the manga, this is a must watch.
Yeah. Oh man. All right, shall we move on to the next one?
Yeah, let's tackle the next one.
Okay, Lars was giving me a bad time over the next one because I'm very upfront about like what kind of stories I like, and it just so happens that like the gender bender like subgenre happens to be one of my favorites. That like my perception of that has changed a lot over the years. At first it was just like, oh, this is kind of interesting but weird, to like, oh, that's fascinating, like what's going on here. And now like I understand more of like it's a lot about like the identity changing and like all that happens because you got a lot of people who really want that in their lives. Like you've got like trans individuals, and it's like very like it's very much a part of them that like their gender's different, and so you have to handle it differently now than like something that came out 15-20 years ago.
Yeah.
This one I feel like
And this one does, I think, a good job.
yeah, I think it does a good job, but a lot of it's played up more for laughs than anything, because I've seen some that like take it very seriously. It's like your body just physically changed, your identity's completely different now, and you have to deal with the consequences. And so like there's that end of the spectrum as well, where like they're having to deal with that. This one, the characters having to deal with that, but it's played up more for laughs than anything, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Which, like, I feel like the humor is pretty good in this one. I liked a lot of the humor, but it kind of leads more into that like cute slice of life kind of genre, if anything.
And what I like about this with Onimai is how you have a character who has changed from guy to girl overnight,
Mhm.
and she is just like, oh, I'm just going to continue doing whatever I was doing beforehand. And the thing is, this is that it doesn't, like, nothing is fundamentally changed
Mhm.
about the likes and the actions of this particular character. Now the consequences are different because of societal norms,
Right.
also just bodily functions. Where she's just like, back in the day, I used to be able to do raids for like 6, 7 hours. I don't have to get off of my chair. And then suddenly, when the bodily functions happen, it's like, oh, can't just
Hmm.
whip it out and do that stuff anymore. Oh no! And so she's got to run out in the middle of a raid, and then of course stuff happens.
Right. Yep. I don't know. I don't think it's a bad example of this subgenre, but I also don't think it's the best example of the subgenre. If you want a really fun one, it's kind of like a blog web serial. But it's absolutely one of my favorite examples in the subgenre, and it's called Magical Girl Policy. And you could just type that in online. Wonderful story. I feel like recently a lot of it's been like more drug out, if anything, but it handles like that actual physical change and like the reasons for that change, even if there's a lot of magic involved, very, very well. So I would definitely recommend that one if you're interested in that subgenre. Just my personal recommendation. Um, but yeah, so let's move on to the next one then. So Ningen Fushin, adventurers who don't believe in humanity will save the world.
All right, this is an interesting one right here because I've seen this one done before, and I've been trying to recall since yesterday where I've seen it before. Where basically you have all of these party members who have been betrayed by their parties, and they come together and they decide to work together because, well, that's the best that they could possibly do. Their lives absolutely suck. They need a party, otherwise they're going to be in trouble. All kinds of reasons, and so they end up working together even though they don't trust each other. And it's a
Mm-hmm.
story about these four adventurers coming to trust one another. And while there are certain elements of the story that are kind of played off to be a little bit more romantic, ultimately the story is actually all about coming to trust people once again,
Yeah.
finding friendship, finding where you belong. And I like it. The thing is, this is that me personally, I'm just gonna like my two big takeaways are if the anime gets as far as the manga is currently, I think a lot of people will kind of tune out because it's going to get weird.
Mm-hmm.
It gets weird because it's trying to use magic to help explain a very deep phenomena for people who find friendship again after having lost it.
Oh,
And
okay.
the second thing is that there's really nothing in the story that's going to shine out above other stories like Campfire Cooking or Handyman in Another World, but we're going to
Right.
get to here pretty soon. Those two fantasy stories will, by their very nature, blow this one out of the water. So it's
Yeah.
weird because this is a kind of a safe story. It works. It's good. I don't think it's going to attract a lot of people.
Right. I feel like some of the action involved with it, some of the fight scenes are going to be fun, so those will at least be fun to watch. It's one I'm looking forward to, and I'm considering like actually sitting down and watching it week by week, but not as much as the next one on the list, personally. Um, the next one on the list, and I love this one. It very much fits into that Otome isekai, but also takes it into a completely new direction. Um,
Mhm.
but it's got so much like chaos and fun, and like the characters are so much fun to watch. Especially just in the manga. So it's called The Magical Revolution of the Reincarnated. If I can actually speak. So, The Magical Revolution of the Reincarnated Princess and the Genius Young Lady. And the princess just makes it for me. And the Genius Young Lady, Euphilia, she's great. Like, I love her. She's the perfect, like, counteracting character to the princess herself, but the
Mhm.
princess, just her like spontaneity, that spunk, like we were talking about with like Kitagawa Marin, she has that,
Yeah.
and it's just like she's just so like chaotic and over the place, and it's just fun to watch her interactions with everybody, especially with her father. Uh, her
Yeah.
reactions
Oh
with
my
the
gosh,
king
no
are
one can control this
hilarious.
girl. Yeah, I think this is one that's going to attract, I think, a lot of people to it.
Hmm.
Um, for various reasons.
For various reasons.
For
Yeah, there is a
various
bit of
reasons.
that
Uh,
Yuri kind of feel to it. I don't believe they've like actually gone there at any point that I've
no,
read,
no.
but
Rule 34 has already dominated this like when I pulled it on up, I went and I saw what some of the comments were. I was like, "Oh, I need bleach. I need bleach for my
uh-oh.
eyes." Yeah.
Uh-oh. But
Yeah.
I feel
So,
like this is very fun. It almost like critiques the classic Otome Isekai formula, which I think is also really fun because it's just like, oh, you're the villainess, you did all this terrible stuff, we're gonna banish you and all that kind of stuff. And then the crazy princess like storms in, well, literally crashes through a window, kidnaps
yeah.
the supposed villainess who wasn't in the wrong at all, and then runs off with her. And the prince is just like, oh crap, I'm screwed now.
Yeah. There's a lot of great things happening in the background for this.
Mm-hmm.
It'll be interesting to see how they handle the explanation for like how magic works because that was pretty dense.
It
That was
was
that
pretty
was a
dense, and
that
I'm
was the
worried
dense
how
part of the
much,
manga.
yeah, how much exposition they're gonna have to do for all of that. Like, I imagine like third, fourth episode in, we're just gonna have that full episode where they're just talking about magic and all that kind of stuff. And I'm like, that's really gonna bog stuff down. I was a little worried about that when I was reading through that chapter.
Yeah. Say depending on like on how they take it. Like if you go the route, for instance, of like My Dress Up Darling, where
Mm-hmm.
My Dress Up Darling is very exposition heavy, but there's a lot that also lends itself to like depicting what they're
True.
talking about. If they go that route, if they can actually manage to make that work, then the exposition shouldn't be too much of a slog. Just
Right.
gonna have to see how it's adapted.
Yeah. So I'm definitely looking forward to this one. I think this one's going to be an absolute blast. Next one, I'm also excited about Handyman Saito in Another
Oh,
World.
oh, I'm so excited for this one. I think I had. Let's see. Where's my note for this one right here? Ba-ba-da-ba-da. Yeah. This one right here could be a contender for most D&D accurate story
Yeah.
since Don't Milk Me Merchant Chan. Which is horrible to say. It is horrible that almost hentai story is a better D&D representation than almost any story out there that has come out of Japan.
Right.
Handyman Saito in Another World can actually compete against Don't Milk Me Merchant Chan for being a fantastic representation of a well put together D&D party with their eccentricities, their weird backstories, how difficult it is to sometimes get different characters to work together, not because they hate each other, but because their classes or their species don't necessarily get along. And
Right.
so you get so much of that all wrapped up in the adventure of this man who has been isekai'd after spending so many years just being a nobody workman in a revolving door of other workmen.
Yeah.
Which that does a lot to your psyche.
Yeah.
If you're in a job for so long that where you know you are replaceable, it does something to you.
Yeah.
And so this is also a journey of healing for the handyman. And so
Right.
it's just so many great elements brought together.
Well, and it's fun to see a story where, like, the main character is not OP because he came to this world and received magic. He's OP because of some regular skill in our world that just happens to apply itself really well in this fantasy world. And it's fun to see the interactions based on it because everybody's like, you can do that? That's impressive. And he's like, oh, it's nothing. I just did this for my job back in my other world kind of idea. And it's not played up, but I feel like it's handled very well.
Oh, it's handled it very well. It's never hammed up,
Yeah.
which is really nice. And like if you were to like use D&D terms, it'd be like the main character is basically a crossover between all of the handyman work of a rogue and an artificer. If you could
Mm-hmm.
take those two classes and merge them together in a non-combat way, you get the main character.
Yeah.
And that's neat because he's a support character in such a niche fashion,
Yeah.
but it's a support that if you've played enough D&D, you realize, oh my gosh, if I could have that character to help me out because I hate losing 20 HP or more to freaking traps.
Right. Exactly. And it's not like they're immune to the traps either. Like there's been a number of times they've actually like triggered them and fallen into whatever like problem that's popped up. And I love the little side stories as well. I feel so bad for that elf. The one elf in the side story where like she's this full on like fighter grappler and has the healer next to her that's just like that elf is all
masochist.
Mine. Yeah.
Oh, that healer is awful. You want to know what? You want to know what? That is the relationship between Ichigo and Orihime.
Oh no.
I've absolutely is where you have the fighter who maybe somewhat realizes that the other person really likes them. They're not oblivious to it, but like that's not the most important thing. Whereas the healer is looking for every opportunity to be close to this person and waits for them to get injured so that way they can use their powers and show off how amazing they are. That is freaking Orihime in a nutshell. And for evidence of this, Orihime takes an hour to heal Ichigo of a couple of stab wounds when she can heal Grimmjow from having his arm obliterated from existence within 15 seconds.
Right.
In Orihime.
So one thing I did really like about Handyman Saito in Another World that isn't done very well in a lot of other isekai stories is that even though they don't show a lot of it, they show enough of the main character's background. You get enough of his like background in his other world that he's his own character. It's not like this blah protagonist that just suddenly got thrown into this other world. Like, he has a history. He has, like, these skills. You can see where he got these skills and, like, who he is because of them. And you're able to see that before, like, as the story progresses, you get these little flashbacks, and it's wonderful to see that in a character. And even though there's not a lot of them, there's enough that you actually get it. But you get so many of these other characters that just, like, you have no idea who they were other than just a basic outline before they're summoned in this other world. It doesn't really matter who they were before then. You know what that may? You know what I mean? And I feel like that's the case with this next one. I really like this next one. There's a lot of, like, it's another one that's a lot of fun, but, like, you don't get a lot of the character before he gets summoned this other world. And the one I'm talking about is called Campfire Cooking in Another World with My Absurd Skill, which I love the premise of it. The premise of it's fun. The character's like not really OP, but like ends up in a bunch of situations where OP-ness would help. Because basically you've got this character, he gets summoned into this other world, and the king and the people who summoned him like just write him off because he's just this weak peasant, basically. And all he really has is this ability to use Amazon and have the stuff delivered to him, basically for food. And it's like a survival skill, if anything. He's like, oh, if I've got the money, I can just buy food. I'm fine. And he just happens to be a good enough cook that, like, it makes a difference. But the catch is, he's a good enough cook that he attracts the attention of a very gluttonous Fenrir, like a very giant, like, magically powered wolf. And the wolf's like, I'll become your familiar as long as you feed me a whole ton. And the wolf's just in it for the food.
Yes, and I like that. I like that aspect of it.
Yeah.
Because I'm so used to the wolf showing up, and now it's like, oh yeah, I am now like a beautiful wolf girl, and will you please take care of me? But you don't get that with this.
No, the wolf stays the wolf.
Not as far as I've read. I'm like, please not. With that, as far as I've read, no, the wolf remains a wolf, and the wolf is its own great character.
Yes.
Like the wolf outshines the cook, which is sad because it's his story and the wolf steals the show.
Right. The wolf steals the show. And I love a bunch of the, because I've read quite a ways into this one before. I love some of the other familiars he gets. He gets a slime, which starts off as just a regular slime, but then, like, starts getting overpowered because, of course, it's leveling up with this, like, max level giant wolf. And then there's the little like, mischievous little, like, fairy dragon later on. That's also super fun. But it like plays this fun little like balancing act between like isekai and battles, but also being like a gourmet manga and like travel log, and it does a really good job of like putting all of that together.
Mm-hmm. And there is something also to say about resources. Like this is a
Yeah.
story where it would be so easy to just have the character be OP because I've got access to resources. Yay! But he already early on is all like, I only am able to do as much as I have gold or access to raw materials.
Right.
I need to be able to get that stuff. If I can't get that stuff, I am screwed and I'm just a regular dude. So I need stuff. And the animals can definitely help him out to a certain degree, but it's up to him to still be able to manage resources and acquire resources. Otherwise, he's in a very horrifying contract with a wolf who's willing to eat him if he doesn't keep that wolf fed.
Exactly. It's kind of like, what was that anime that came out not too long ago? Dungeon of the Black Company.
Yes,
where he's got that, which that was the one where the dragon ends up becoming the girl and all that, but it was very much along the lines of, if he doesn't keep her fed, she will eat him. And so like it had that fear involved with it, which was kind of funny.
Yeah, so I think this is going to be one that will actually draw a lot of attention, especially since Studio Mappa is the one doing it.
Of course, yeah.
So here's the thing, I'm hoping that it's well received. It might not be my pick for favorite anime, at least as of right now, based off of what I've read, but I think it's going to do well.
Yeah. And then we've got one last one that we're reviewing. It's called Ippon Again, or the Japanese title is Mo Ippon, which we have a sports manga, which it seems a little different than a lot of the sports mangas come out recently, and I actually really like it.
It is, and I love that it's these sporty girls.
Yeah.
So I mean, if you don't mind me, once again, a little Lars tangent.
Okay.
I myself was never in any of like the sport on any of the sports teams or any of the sports clubs in high school, and that came down large part to the fact that my feet are reconstructed, and the coaches would not take someone who has pegs in his feet to keep his bones in place, and that makes absolute sense. But I like sports. I like doing sports, and so I would do all of the more advanced PE classes in high school. And so I got to work out with a lot of people from the different sports teams. And the girls that were in those classes were incredibly passionate about working out, about doing stuff. And they were some of the liveliest people to be around. And when reading Ippon Again, that is what was coming through. And so I was like, this is real. You got these girls who love sports, one girl who has to get good grades to do sports because her dad's really upset with her if she doesn't bring home good grades. So she's got a balancing act. You've got this one girl who wants another girl to join her sport instead. You've got this girl who just like, she's highly motivated to go on and like do great things in judo. And it works so well. These girls feel like high school girls.
Yeah.
And that was just fun to read.
Yeah, and it's fun to read stuff like that. Like, we get so many, like, over-the-top fantasy and sci-fi and drama and action in all sorts of different forms. It's fun to see something that's, like, slowed down every day kind of, like a storyline. And it's fun to see that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I don't know how well this one's going to be received. Especially with Nagatoro coming in with its second season, because the second season of Nagatoro is going to be one where we now focus more on her
Yeah.
and where we get to learn more about who she is, and there will be the beginning of a judo arc in this season.
Okay.
So that one, like, it's going to be interesting because we're basically going to get two judo stories going head to head, and I think I already know which one is going to draw more eyes, which is sad for Ippon Again, because I feel like this is one that that will be really endearing to the people who do watch it.
Right. Right. So I think we've got some good ones coming out this upcoming season. They're starting to release right now. I think there's a couple of them that have already released by the time this has been released. But yeah, go ahead in the comments. Tell us what you're interested in, the stuff that we've talked about, stuff that we haven't talked about. And let us know. Let us know like what kind of anime this season you're looking at watching. And yeah, tell us like what kind of stories you like.
Yeah, so we really want to hear what your input is and everything. And again, if you have a great recommendation for a better way to stream stuff live, so we can have in-person contact with people, because we would love to do that. It's just these frustrations with technology. Please let us know in the comments below, because any sort of help and suggestion would be very, very much appreciated.
Yep.
But yeah, this video's gone already plenty long, but it's been fun.
Yep.
Talk about this stuff. I'm so looking forward to discussing some of these anime throughout this season.
Yep.
I think we're gonna have some good fun.
I think so too.
All right. So with all that,
go ahead.
With all that being said, guys, thank you for joining us in this adventure that we call writing. If you would like to further support the channel, please check out the links we have down below. Especially check out our books that we've published, and like, share, subscribe, share this stuff on out there. And we look forward to seeing you in the next video. Peace.